What's going on, everybody? It is the one and only Q from Retro Q Gaming, and in that highly annoying, highly aggravating period that we have, that is the run up to every next generation console, well, finally we have some real, tangible, good news, some proper, interesting stuff to talk about. I'm not talking about teraflop this, or I'm not talking about RAM speed that, or core count this, or SSD speed that. No, we are talking actual, semi-tangible benefits, and, well, we'll get into that now anyway. So basically, out of nowhere, Epic Games have revealed that they have a new iteration of their engine coming out. That is a new major iteration, because we all know there's 4.2, 4.25, etc. But no. Now we're talking about the proper next full version, the Unreal Engine 5. Now, I have never been a fan of the Unreal Engine prior to 4. Frankly, I thought all the praise 3 got was vastly undeserved. But ever since Unreal 4 came out, it felt proper. It felt like the real world, real deal at the time. Now, of course, before we go any further, I will say in the comments section below, you'll find a pinned tweet with a link directly to the official Epic Games Unreal Engine 5 showcase video. I highly recommend you go and watch this to get a what people are calling PlayStation 5 gameplay reveal. I don't trust that, but you'll see why now in a second. But anyway, go click that, watch it on the highest resolution that your monitor or TV will support. But anyway, back to the big benefits of what we're looking at as the main draw to Unreal Engine 5. Oh, and before we go any further, Unreal Engine 5 will not start releasing games properly until at some point in 2021. So if you see any games with Unreal Engine coming out right at the end of 2020 with the next generation consoles and stuff, it will be using Unreal Engine 4 point something. Anyway, back to the point. They've shown off a bunch of stuff in this new one, but the real ones that they wanted to highlight were what they call their nanite rendering technology. Now, basically, I'm going to dumb this down massively, of course, because, well, it makes sense to give you the real world application of it. But how the nanite technology works. It basically allows you to import a high resolution, high quality original model, something that can even be to the quality and tier and detail and polygon count that you would see in a Hollywood film. They used The Mandalorian for a great example, because if you didn't know, that was actually made with Unreal. But you can take the original source film quality stuff, photogrammetry stuff, things that have been scanned in with real world photographs and cameras, or even something like AutoCAD software and AutoCAD designs and creations. These can all be directly imported. You don't need to tailor them out. You don't need to drop the count. You don't need to fill in the gaps that would be created by dumbing it down to remove the polygons, whatever. You don't need to do any of that stuff. Because of the nanite technology, it can import it directly in and customize it automatically for what's there. Of course, this leads to extremely high quality assets in every way, shape and form. Ground, wall, texture, character models, statues, enemies, etc. Now, their next big engine-based feature that they're showing off is called Lumen, which is the global illumination-based lighting system, which honestly looks like the software-based ray tracing that they've been incorporating into Unreal Engine. Because it actually uses the global illumination and global light sources, basically saying from the sun, if you will, or a light source like a lamp, a fire, a flame, a torch, anything like that. And it can bounce all your lighting properly off that. None of it is pre-baked lighting, which means none of the lighting is already made and cannot be moved, but because it's global illumination, it is completely dynamic. Which is very impressive, because that means you can have a light source come in through maybe a hole in the ceiling and it will bounce light around to smaller degrees again and again, dimming over time and progressively. And this will fix something you see in many current generation games, where you will see a light source come in and then even as you go very slightly around the corner, it instantly goes pitch black. So it essentially goes from extremely bright light, which is almost direct, to complete pitch blackness. So using Nanite and Lumen as their big showcases, they did have a couple of other small ones in there as well. There were things like adaptive rock climbing and stuff, where it would model out the parts of the body to look more realistic for climbing, etc. And ones where they could now do much more highly advanced and highly detailed calculations for the likes of water and things like that. There's even a scene right at the end of the demo where they do some very, very high speed, what is arguably flying scenes and sequences. Much of which cannot be accomplished on any existing hardware simply because it's too slow. Hard drives were completely out. And because this was running on a PlayStation 5 dev kit, they had access to the new PCIe 4.0 drives, the NVMe SSDs, which are extremely fast. In fact, because they're not even officially out yet, that is PCIe 4.0 drives, because all those drives aren't properly out yet, this is technically top tier, even in relation to PCs, because none of this is available in both consoles or PC just yet. But because of the speed of the NVMe SSD, the 4.0 PCIe drive, it could allow, over the course of such a short period of time, such a large area, that it could keep all the high fidelity, high detail quality assets streaming as fast as possible, as fast as the game could move, in order to do so. This in theory is a reference back to Horizon Zero Dawn when you think about it, where the developer actually said they wanted to include flight, but it was a limitation because of the regular hard drive. So overall, I am very, very impressed by this. Come 2021 and beyond, where we start getting Unreal Engine 5 games, it's going to be a pretty big deal. Now, I will say one thing as well here. I want everyone to take this with a little bit of a grain of salt. Yes, it is a real-world running tech demo, absolutely. It is running on a PlayStation 5 dev kit, absolutely. I am not debating that, and I completely agree that that's the case. In fact, the developers have said, Unreal that is, they said they got a PlayStation 5 dev kit and stuck a capture card onto the back, onto the output, and that's how they recorded it. So, yes, it is legit in that way. One thing I will say is be wary going forward when you what to expect about, say, next generation games and whatnot. Simply because, one, this is running at 30 frames per second with noticeable drops. If you watch the non-streamed version, you will see that the video uploaded is 30 frames per second with noticeable frame drops. It's also omitting several key and complex features that you will see in real games. Enemy AI, for example, or any other system that could be incorporated in there. So while I don't mean to be a naysayer and detract from it and just shit on it completely, just be wary that it is not 100% representative of the final product. It might be 95%, but just remember that. Overall, I'm looking forward to stuff like this showing up in 2021. I know I'll be rocking my Ryzen 3900X, my RTX 3080 Ti, and a beautiful, beautiful, high-speed, top world-class PCIe 4.0 NVMe SSD when they become available later this year. So I can't wait for stuff like this in basically all my games. Oh, and before we go, remember, fanboys, what was it you were saying about old consoles and old hardware and old gen not holding stuff back?